I can do that.
For your own,
So,
for your own good.
Freya, yeah, if you want, that's fine. Because apparently he could proceed on this thing without it.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you and declare the May 2023 agenda briefing session open. And I welcome councillors, staff, the CEO of course, and staff that are up there in the gallery, welcome, and our online viewers. The disclaimer, the agenda briefing sessions are used to inform councillors on the items of business to be presented and discussed at the forthcoming ordinary council meeting. These meetings are open to members of the public who may request to present a deputation to council relating to an item on the agenda. No decisions are made at these meetings, although councillors can request additional information or alternative wording be provided to allow for motions to be prepared for consideration at the forthcoming ordinary council meeting. Any statement regarding any planning or development application made during the agenda briefing session is not to be taken as notice of approval. Anyone who has an application lodged with the Shire must obtain and should only rely on written confirmation of the outcome of the application and any conditions attached to the decision made by council. An audio and visual record will be made by means of live streaming of these proceedings and uploaded to the Shire's YouTube page for viewing. Acknowledgement of country. The Shire of Harvey acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal communities and their cultures, and to elders both past, present and emerging. Records of apologies and leave of absence. We have an apology from Councillor Gillett, and I have a leave of absence from Councillor Dickinson. And I've also been advised that the Director of Community Lifestyle may join us later on in the meeting. Are there any other apologies? Thank you. Declarations of members, we have quite a few of those and they are up on the screen. So I'll just go around to the councillors and if they can just check. So Councillor Beach.
Yeah, I sent in those 4 and that's correct.
Thank you. Councillor Capagrego.
Yes, all correct.
Thank you. Councillor Crispin.
I had mine written down, but I'm just trying to find the email, but there's nothing on there. I'll check back in a second, sorry.
Okay. Councillor Jackson.
Yes, I do have one to add. Council delegate on Morrissey Homestead, so I have an impartiality interest. I will put the paperwork in as we
speak. Thank you. Councillor Coleman.
Yep. All correct.
Councillor Bromham.
Yeah, good.
Any staff? No.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes, I have a. I'm going to call a financial interest in the item for the Harvey Play and Community Centre.
5.1.2.
Yes, executive board member for that group, and my child attends.
Thank you. And I have a number of impartiality interests which are on the screen and correct. Thank you. Councillor Crispin, did you have any further ones?
I'll just put them through on the computer if that's okay.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you.
No worries. Okay, so we'll move through to the officers' report. The first one up is the 5.1.1, which is the lease for the Harvey Sporting Clays Association. Does staff want to introduce this item at all or have anything to say before I go to questions?
Through the chair, happy to go to questions.
Thank you. All righty. Councillors, are there any questions in relation to this item? I have a couple which I will ask then. Has the Shire received a response from DUA, which was indicated in the letter dated the 19th of December 22.
Sorry, can you just repeat that, please?
Thanks, Renee.
Sorry.
Yeah, has the Shire received a response from DUA?
Through the chair, I don't believe so. I'm just looking at Simon. No, we haven't received a response.
My second question was, how often has this site been inspected by Shire staff?
Through the chair, we did an inspection when the lease come up for renewal, the extension, and obviously we found the defaults prevalent in there, and that's when we've completed further 2 inspections. Prior to that, I'm unsure of the years, but it has been years since the site has been inspected.
Okay. Have the Harvey Sporting Clay Association sought any approvals for the development works on the site?
Madam Chair, I might assist Renee with that one. So no, they haven't actually done any sort of permanent works out there that would require the need for development approval. They've upgraded some of the targets over the years and shifted them from location to location. In our opinion, they wouldn't require the need for development approval. There was a sea container here or there that popped up, which immediately upon requesting it was gone. So,
Oh, it's been moved?
Yeah.
Okay. And what are the additional costs should the lease renewal be along the similar lines to the Jeep Owners Club of WA, which is like 1 year lease with an option of a further 3?
Through the chair, those leases were prepared by staff, so there would just be resource costs involved with that.
Thank you. Any other questions from councillors? Thank you. Thanks, Renee.
Thank you.
Courtney is about to leave. Thank you. 5.1.2, which is the management agreement with the Harvey Community and Play Learning Centre. So if there's any items that relate to the confidential documents, I'm happy to move this to behind closed doors, but at this stage I'll go around and see if there are any questions from councillors. Councillor Beach.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I did send in a number of questions which have been answered by staff. I won't read them all, but basically it was revolving around the inequity between the agreement that we're being asked to enter into with the play group and other community groups that use Shire buildings. And the response I got was that this is a management agreement and not a lease. And I understand that, but there is an inequity that this particular group was paying $1 per child per session, as I understand it. And if they had 20 children, well, that was $20. If they had 5 children, it was $5. And that was put in place a long time ago. I remember it being in there. But they didn't have to pay any utilities. Now the management agreement is suggesting that there is no fees to be paid, no contribution to utilities, and no maintenance as per the clause in the management agreement. So I really wanted to know, my question after the preamble is, what is the difference between a management agreement and a lease agreement, and why wouldn't everybody else that's got a lease agreement say, well, if that's the deal, can we have a management agreement, please?
Okay, so that's the question. Do I have, through the CEO, Renee? Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair. A management agreement was put in place for the association 3 years ago, and they've requested a renewal on the management agreement. So that's how it's come about to be a management agreement. There are other associations within the Shire that offer childcare, and they are also under a management agreement as well. In respect to the fees and charges, they were increased last year, and prior to that they hadn't been increased for quite some time. And I believe there was also some negotiation with regards to using the meeting room at the same time as well, of the fees essentially increasing. So with respect to a management agreement, the request was that the management agreement was renewed. So that's what we've worked around on the decision of the association, and obviously the request of that, but also taking into consideration the other matters addressed on their letter.
Yeah, thank you. And these amounts that you've supplied to me, $7,370 for the 21-22 financial year,
Yeah.
would I be right to assume that that was 7,370 child visits?
So the way they actually charge it is a morning and an afternoon session per child, which actually attends per the morning session and per the afternoon session, and then by the 5 days over that week. Essentially, yes, but we need to bring it into perspective of a morning and an afternoon session as well. Yeah.
It's like paying to go into the swimming pool, really, isn't it?
It
Okay,
is.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, any other questions? Councillor Bromham.
Yeah, can you give me some details on the other groups with management, the management system, and where they uplift?
Through the chair, just to confirm, there is an association in Australind.
Sorry, Renee, I think specifically being at community childcare and Riverlinks.
Yeah, that's what I was going to allude to. I just wanted to make sure I could name the association names. So Riverlinks is currently on a management agreement, and we are trying to develop a lease with them. However, that's taken quite some time to develop and obviously get to an agreement of. They have their own utilities which they pay because it's all connected in their name within the building, and the difference is because the Harvey Plain community is within the HRCC, it's obviously the utilities of the HRCC which it's billed under. Also, the Binning Up Childcare are under a licence, so that is a licence agreement for the use of that area.
So are they paying for their utilities in Binning Up?
I would need to double check with respect to that, but under the licence agreement they can be charged a portion. However, I don't believe off the top of my head, but I will have to double check that it's not charged.
And if that is the case, what is the difference between these people paying a sum to the utilities, where these other people are paying an amount to use the facility towards the utilities, you might say?
So I checked with David at the HRCC in regards to proportional payments of utilities, and that can quite possibly be done quite easily. And we would obviously do the square meterage over the building of the area that they actually use under the management agreement accordingly.
So you're suggesting now that we put that into this agreement? Is that what you're saying?
I'm answering that question that you asked me of how it could become about that they are charged that. And I've made comment in the report as well of the fact that other associations do pay their own utilities, such as Riverlinks.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
thank you very much for that. I just wanted to make sure that, like Councillor Beach said, we have equity across the Shire.
Sure. Thank you.
Through the chair, can I just make mention though that both Riverlinks and the Binning Out Childcare don't pay fees for the use of that building besides the utilities? It's just the utilities.
Sorry, Ms. Reardon, did you say they paid for the utilities at those two?
Sorry, at Riverlinks they pay for the utilities. At both of those other childcares, they do not pay any other fees for the childcare that they provide, which is different to what is occurring at the Harvey Community Play and Learning Centre, where they do pay.
Yeah, fully understand. Thank you.
Are there any other questions, councillors? Okay, Okay, thanks Renee.
Thank you.
And I welcome Councillor Burgoyne online. Can you hear us, Councillor Burgoyne? Thank you, welcome.
And now, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with my laptop, so I've got to wear my earphones, so it's all good.
Okay, and we can hear you, so that's good. All right, councillors, item number 5.1.3, which is, oh, we better get Courtney back in, thank you. Okay, councillors, item 5.1.3, lease of the Harvey Senior Citizens Centre Committee. Are there any questions around this one? Thank you. 5.1.4, lease for the Harvey Brunswick Leisure Football Club. Any questions, councillor? Councillor Coleman.
Thank you. Just a query. Section 3.2, the service charges, they may be up for electricity for the oval, fair enough, the skate park, the car park and the memorial corner. So as they don't have exclusive use of those areas, obviously, why would they be up for charges and unknown being in the future? The other question that I have is there can only be electrical heating within the facility. I just wanted to double check that there's no wood fire or gas stoves in the premises.
Over to Courtney. In a position to answer that one?
I'll just ask the coordinator of governance, so she can answer this one.
Thank you. So, through the chair, just to address the first point, section 3.2, service charges.
Yep.
That has been incorporated historically from their previous management agreement. So they're coming off a 20-year management agreement, and that was what was incorporated into that management agreement. With respect to the fireplace point, I'm not too sure if there is one in there. However, before the lease is executed, or before the lease is adopted and then executed by the club, an asset pickup inspection will be completed of the premises, and that will obviously be found out if one is in there or not.
Councillor Collins.
Thank you for that. So have they been actually actively contributing to the costs of the skate park, the car park and the memorial corner in the management agreement?
Through the chair, in the management agreement, I don't believe they have been actively contributing to that, no. However, I do know they budget for that, but I'm not 100% sure if they have an account that is connected in their name, which I would need to check. It's only a reservation I have just while we're discussing this.
Okay, thank you. And yep, thank you.
Are there any other questions, councillors? I just had one. The last time this item came, there was some discussion around the signage around the oval. So I'm just wondering if that has been addressed, as it's not part of the leased property.
Through you, Madam Chair, to be brutally honest, no, we haven't actually progressed it too much further. It's not one of our priorities. We do have listed for next year budgets and compliance officers, so hopefully they can get into that. The other complexity is it's actually not part of their lease area, so there's quite a number of items that would need to be unpicked if we're going to try and take compliance action on someone that shouldn't be operating outside the lease area. And so I think we need to get to the bottom of it before we start digging around too much from our point of view as well. So yes.
Okay. Any other questions, councillors? Thank you. Item 5.1.5, lease for the Jeep Owners Club of Western Australia. Councillors, I might move this to behind closed doors, as in receipt of the addendum, I think there's some issues that we need to discuss a bit further behind closed doors. So I'll move that out of the agenda to behind closed doors. At the end. So we'll move to item number 5.1.6, which is the Advisory Group Committees and Partnership Review for 2023. Councillors, have I got any questions around that item? Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam Chair. In the statement there it says the delegate committees to continue representation on committees involved in major long-term infrastructure projects, but I note that we've said to discontinue council representation on the Senior Citizens Committee. I'm just wondering if we can reconsider that until that building construction has been finished.
Right.
Yeah, so through the chair, it was my belief that in the discussions we decided to take that one out because the Harvey radio was in the same boat in regards to going into the Harvey precinct. Is that what you're referring to? Or is it the new infrastructure?
No. Yeah, the Senior Citizens is under a whole new building in its own right.
Yes.
And part of our initial brief was to continue representation in major long-term infrastructure projects. So I'm thinking temporarily it might be advisable to keep council representation in until that building's finished.
Yeah, that's completely up to council whether they'd like to reconsider that. I just don't think I considered that as a long-term infrastructure project.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood that question.
Has been taken a while.
So yeah, if that's the appetite of council, we can have a look at making that amendment.
Thank you.
Councillor Bromley.
Yeah, thank you very much. Through the chair, given that context, what did you call a long-term and short-term project? Where did you draw the line?
Yes. So I think, I can pass it over to Courtney if you'd like.
Through the chair. A little bit of how long's a piece of string, but I sort of went, if it's over $1 million and it's going to take more than a year to build, it's probably a long-term infrastructure project, and if it's under $1 million and it's going to go up quicker than that, it's probably not.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good answer.
Easy as that.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Beach?
Yeah, I've just sort of thought of one. Sorry I didn't send it. It's just got into my mind right now. I'm pleased to see that the CEO is going to bring back a report after going into consultation with these groups. I know the couple of groups that I'm on at present, and they've been say to discontinue council rep, they probably would argue strongly that it's a valuable resource for them. Will that be taken into consideration if they put a strong enough argument up? I guess that's what the question is.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you. Most certainly that's, I suppose, the purpose of going to the public consultation. It's really a preliminary filling of the administration and council at the moment. So if we have a strong desire for that committee to be a part, have that council representation there, then that's the information we'll bring back to council for council decision.
Any other questions, councillors? Okay, thank you. Infrastructure Services 5.2.1, Local Roads Community Infrastructure Program Phase 4. I might just get the director just to give us a quick overview on that one, if you can, to the CEO.
Yep, through the chair. We've been advised that we're going to receive 2 rounds of LRCI funding, 4A and 4B. Previously 4A was a phase 3 extension, and council did receive a report on that. Since then, and when council received a report, we were under the understanding we could commence those works this financial year. However, we've now been advised that we can't commence those works, and funding won't be available to the next financial year. So we've had another look at the projects that we previously looked at, and we just felt it'd be better value to spend that money on the projects that we're recommending here. So we're keeping one road project in Cookenham. The other projects that were approved by council will be funded from the municipal fund in the coming budget. Bidding up parking, landscaping and information structure. That's really an opportunity there to approve the park frontage on Bidding Up Road, improve the parking put in a new information sign and do some landscaping and do some traffic calming through there. Just improve the amenity of that entry into Binningup. And at the moment there's a bit of anarchy there, people park all over the place, especially during school drop-off and pick-up, so we want to sort that out. Meriden Park, opportunity to construct a shared path from Uduck Road to the new skate park, and I know Councillor Beach had a question about will the path impact on the soccer fields, and look, it won't, and we'll make sure it doesn't. The western section will go between the fence and the trees, there's enough room for that, and the southern section will make sure it skirts around the playing field, so there's an opportunity there for that, and also some landscaping along Hinge Road, and some reticulation that we need to modify as part of the skate park, so that can be funded from there. LLC parking improvements, that's an existing hardstand area that will be converted to car parking, and in discussion with Mr Winter, there's some additional funding there for stage 2 CCTV at the skate park, which I believe there'll be a link to the police station and whatnot. So that's 4A. 4B is the famous Crohn's Bridge, and that's our contribution there, 385,000. Shire of Darden put in 125, and Main Roads are putting in the rest. I've estimated 600,000. They haven't told me how much I paid for the bridge, but yeah, so it's good that it's come through and we can fund that bridge.
Thanks, Mr Loxton. Is there any other questions, Councillor Beach?
Yeah, just on Crohn's Bridge, so does that mean that the Muni Fund isn't impacted? That's being funded straight out of grant funding?
Exactly, we won't be putting any money there. The only thing is obviously once it goes out to tender and whatnot, depends what price comes back, there may be a further report where we all have to chip in a little bit extra. I don't know at this stage.
The council funds aren't being used at this time?
Not at this stage.
Okay.
Very good. No further questions. I'll move to item number 5.2.2, Victoria Street, Australind Road closure. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Bromham?
Yeah, through the chair. I just noticed in the report that we put this in the, and it's not just this one, there's a couple of these, where we advertise this in the Harvey Reporter, the South Western Times, and the website. I'm just wondering why we don't put it in the paper that's delivered free in the southern end of the Shire, and why we don't put it on Facebook as well, so that we're reaching out to more people in relation to our communication.
Happy for Courtney.
Through the chair, so the Act requires local public notice to be put in 4 places, which can include the newspaper. What we've found is that our reach is probably a little bit better in other channels, and we generally just aim to comply with the option, best suited to that purpose. The website, Facebook, library notice boards and those sorts of things. We certainly can look at that, and that might be a question for our manager of public relations and communication, but generally we reach the minimum requirements as per the Act, and we put out a lot of public notices. It gets quite expensive, sometimes up to $1,200 for a small ad, so very expensive price to be adding to our advertising.
Yeah. I guess one of the reasons I brought it up in this particular one was this particular road is in Australind, and yet we're advertising it in Harvey. I just don't understand the, if we're going to do it just in a minimum, it should be the minimum that actually people concerned read.
Yeah, look, if I can just add through the chair, look, we do write to all the service authorities, the public utility authorities, which are normally the ones that are going to be affected, and we do make a judgment call in terms of what it is. Like this one is such a tiny little slither of land, and it's not really going to impact on anyone. And if that was a whole road closure, we would have consulted all the adjoining property owners and sort of gone out a bit further. So we do make a judgment call, but as Courtney said, we do go for the, in accordance with the requirements of the advertising. But yeah, we do definitely make a judgment call. It's going to adversely affect access to residents and future development and that. take it further.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Okay, item 5.2.3, Burnbrook Place, Wellesley Road closure.
Sorry, Madam Chair, can we just go back one?
Yes, of course we can.
Sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't this section of Victoria Street the one that Board of the Court didn't want us to close? They needed access. Has something changed in it? But I noticed that now it's no dramas. Someone just could enlighten me.
No, that's through the chair, that's a different section of Victoria. This is the section on the west side of Forest Highway. The other one was the section of Victoria Street in Rowlands, which was near the southwestern highway. So
okay.
Completely different section. Yep.
No worries.
The other one we didn't support.
Yep.
Thanks, Councillor Burgoyne. Okay, 5.2.3, Burnbrook Place, Wellesley Road closure. Do we have any questions on that one, councillors? Thank you. Sustainable Development, item 5.3.1, application for rural pursuit. Do we have any questions, councillors, around this one? Councillor Bromham.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, I understand this goes on a couple of times a month, and I just wondered what are going to be the number of horses and people staying at that time? It's 10 in the report. Is that 10 horses, or is it going to be?
Through Madam Chair, it's our understanding that anything from 6 to 10 participants. Yeah. I would assume that depending on the type of clinic that's being run, that would dictate the numbers. So I wouldn't say that it's consistent. So anything from 6 to 10 at this stage.
And one other comment, yeah. The other one was how are we going to monitor this from our perspective to ensure compliance?
Like every other development application, we would undertake compliance on an ad hoc basis. If there was an issue that came up to us, in this particular case, I dare say that the neighbour may raise an issue with us, that's how it actually came to us. So we would be responding to reasonable requests for compliance action from the neighbours.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Councillors, I did have a couple of questions, but staff have answered those, and one of them was, is this retrospective approval? And of course, has the Shire received any previous complaints? So you've answered that already in regards to that's why we've gone to the DA.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions around this item? Thank you, councillors. Item 5.3.2, which is the draft Harvey Region Trails and Adventure Master Plan. Do we have any questions around this item? All good? Thank you. Corporate Services, item 5.4.1, list of accounts paid for April 2023. Are there any questions? I need Councillor Dickinson here. She normally goes through those. 5.4.2, financial statements as at the 30th of April 2023. Do we have any questions? All good?
He always gives the right answer, so I'm not asking him more.
5.4.3, the Corporate Services Policy Review 2023. Any questions around those policies? Everyone's happy there. Very good. Okay, community and lifestyle, item 5.5.1, which is the 2023 Shire of Harvey Community Awards. There is a confidential attachment to this item, so if there are any questions, I'll move that to behind closed doors with the other items. Do I have any questions?
I've got one general one.
Yep, Councillor Coleman.
When we have items like this and we have closing on the 30th of April, is that closing at the close of business that day? Is there a specific time that we have that nominations or applications for any of these things close? What's our standard closing time? Do we have such a thing?
I might refer that to Community Development Team. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you, through the chair. So the answer to that is actually close of business. So at 4:30 p.m, given that even if it was to come in later, it would be assumed that if we hadn't received it at the end of that day, 4:30 p.m, that would be closed.
Okay. Happy to take further questions behind closed doors, when we go behind closed doors.
So you want this item to move to behind closed doors?
Probably.
Okay.
It's easier.
Thank you. We'll move that one. 5.5.2, which is the grant funding program for 2023-24. Once again, we've got some confidential attachments to this item as well. So, do we have any questions, councillors? And yes, I think
I have to go.
Financial. Yes, thank you. Councillor Beach.
Yes, I'm referring to the addendum. Is that okay to do in, I was going to say open court, but in the open chamber? It's my understanding that Main Street have lost their secretary or treasurer, and perhaps this was overlooked. Is there an opportunity between now and next week that this submission can come in? And secondly, I thought last year all these funding rounds that in this partnership agreement, that was the last time they did it. We were just going to carry them forward. Now I might be mistaken over that one, and this might be the start. I'm not sure, but if from my time on Main Street, if this funding isn't provided, there will be no Harvey's Festival in 2024.
Through the chair, it was the officer's recommendation last year that there be a partnership agreement as part of that grant funding round. However, there were amendments to the officer's recommendation, and Harvey Main Street was removed from the partnership category and was in the events category. So that is why it wasn't an automatic 5-year rolling agreement in regards to funding. I have discussed this with the acting Shire President in regards to council being able to amend the officer's recommendation to request Harvey Main Street to submit an application and for that to be considered as part of the draft budget. So I think that that would be the way to deal with the request, due to maybe there being some miscommunications in regards to the need to apply for funding because it was moved to the events category.
So that doesn't have to be done by next week then, is that what you're saying?
No, I would suggest that we can amend the officer's recommendation, seeing though this is part of the, will be part of the agenda for the council meeting, and then we can just deal with it that way.
Councillor, are you happy with that, Councillor Beach?
I'm happy with that question, and I've got my own question.
Go ahead.
Because that only came up this afternoon.
Yes.
Again, it's almost a cap in hand request. That the Harvey Men's Shed is a fledgling organisation. We've been working away now for 12 months to get to this point. We desperately need funding for a consultant, and I'm quite happy to talk to councillors informally to see what support we could get. But again, I'd be looking to put an amendment next week if the support was there. Because this is dead in the water if we don't get the funding. We've been, since this came out of the workshop, we've been desperately trying to find other sources and not yet been able to find any. And we're really ready to go. So
do you have a question, Councillor?
So the question is, would it be appropriate if I moved an amendment next week and tested council? I guess is the question.
Yes, I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Councillor Bronwyn?
Yeah, can I have a question to Councillor Beach in relation to...
You can ask the question.
Yeah. I just wondered, given why we need this funding, given that there are several men's sheds within the Shire who must have that plan already in place.
Yeah, well, as I explained at the forum, the workshop, this is a little bit different in as much as we want to incorporate other bodies that are in that location. And yes, we could cut and paste. That has been discussed, and if we don't get funding, that possibly may happen. But then when the other two organisations get ready to develop, we're going to then duplicate everything that's already in that particular building. And I'm talking about ablutions, talking about car parking and a range of other things that would have some synergy between the three groups that we're talking about. We want to test that with a business case to see whether it would stack up, and without doing the work we won't know. Yeah, we could go straight down the line and say we just want a men's shed and forget about the other groups. And I know South West Community Care, for example, really in temporary accommodation, if you like, and looking for a permanent home. We felt that the clientele that they have and the clientele that Men's Shed have, there's some synergies there, and they would be in a position to help pay for the upkeep, because they would pay a rent. They would be given the licence to rent it. That's the plan, but that's what the business plan would uncover and research. And we don't know the answer. We've come up with these ideas. Is it a good idea or not? We don't know. We've got to test it.
I asked the question because I'm aware that the Australian Men's Shed and the Lions coexist within their facility. So they must have an agreement or an MOU or something they put in place to achieve that aim. I wondered if something like that might be more cost effective.
I don't know. I don't know.
CEO? Oh, sorry. Councillor Bromley, you've got another question?
Well, I do have another question, but I think should probably be behind closed doors.
Do you want me to move this item to behind closed doors as well?
Yes, please.
Okay. Councillor Burgoyne, over to you.
I'll ask mine in closed doors, thanks.
Okay, noted. CEO, do you have a question?
Councillor Beach, through the Chair, Councillor Beach, just wanted to bring to your attention that the Harvey Men's Shed submission was submitted as part of the Alcoa Harvey Sustainability Fund, which was a committee recommendation which has been endorsed by Council. So I would suggest that if there was any request from Council to provide funding towards the Men's Shed, it would need to be out of the Shire's community grant funding round and not the alcohol funding.
Yeah, I'm fully aware of that. Thank you very much, and I will be making a few phone calls between now and then. But yeah, thank you for the update.
And I note that there's some follow-up questions, but we'll discuss those behind closed doors. Any other questions? Can someone just give Councillor Coleman a tap to come back in, please? Thank you. Item 6 is a notice of motion for the following meeting. Everyone can read that. Are there any questions around that one at this stage? Okay, thank you. So we will now move to